up in Washington, they've been passing all sorts of crazy laws to us. It's insane what they're doing to us. It's completely un-American, unconstitutional, but they're just ramrodding them through. They're not taking a vote. Bob Ferguson, the old attorney general for Jay Inslee, he is now our governor, and he was the one writing all these laws for Inslee. Now he's in there, and he's just ramrodding these things down our throat.
You want some beef?
Not right now. My wife would love some.
Yeah.
She wants to do like the whole homestead thing eventually. Like she wants to have goats and chickens and cows, and
chickens are next for us.
Man, that's the goal right there.
Yeah. It's
be self-sufficient.
Right now we're just on an acre.
Yeah.
So it's just not conducive right where we're at right now. The last place I had was on 5 acres.
Oh, nice.
Like it would have been perfect for it.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with like 2 to 5 acres. Like that's when you can really start doing.
Yeah. 1 acre is just enough room to where you're not bumping into your neighbor, but it's not enough to start farming.
Yeah.
Especially when I got 2 pit bulls. They would find those chickens fun to chew on for a minute.
Yeah, you're going to have to get some chickens soon, man.
Yeah.
They're fun. They're pretty easy too.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Chicken and quail. I've been looking into quail a little bit as well.
I haven't done quail, but I've heard the same thing.
The only thing with quail is like we got quail eggs one time, and you have to crack a lot of eggs to make scrambled eggs or something. Like I don't know if I have the patience for little thimble size yolks.
I'll make you an automated quail.
There you go.
Cracker. Like you just load up like a hopper and you just like a Gatling gun. And you just.
There you go.
You just got to automate it.
So on this episode of the Big Tex Ordnance Farm Homesteading podcast, we're here with Brendan and Rick.
Yeah.
Talking about all things homesteading.
That's right.
But yeah, welcome to the podcast. You know what it is. I'm Ike. We have Brendan, also known as Camera Guy, in front of the camera this time, once again. And then our guest today is Rick Olsen from Icon Killer Defense or Velocity. You got a lot of things going on. Icon Killer Velocity.
Killer Innovations is kind of like the umbrella company. So we do a lot of OEM work for different companies, and within that we have Velocity Defense, which is kind of our enthusiast competition gear, mainly focusing on pistol stuff right now. And then we have Icon Defense, which is more the AR side, but it's also like the more duty, like hard use gear, military, law enforcement. We're developing it to be hard use gear. So we kind of have those segments because I don't think that they really cross, like if we're designing stuff for hard use, it's not really like I wouldn't put a compensator on a hard use pistol.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. So I wanted to delineate.
No, that's good to kind of segment it out based on the purpose behind the brand and kind of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And a lot of it too was my business partner, Mike Miller. He was the founder of Mega, if you remember Mega Arms.
Oh yeah.
And he had like a really crazy cult following there. And he was known for doing like very high end, hard use, AR stuff. And he was actually one of the first guys to really do a lot of aftermarket, OEM receivers and stuff like that. And he ended up being over at Zev for a while. And 3 years ago, he came over and joined me. And so he really wanted to get back to his roots. And that's where Icon was kind of launched. We thought it would be a good fit. And so far it's been moving kind of slow. We've been so busy with the OEM side that we haven't had the energy and the time to just dive into it. But this year we're leaning in. Nice. Like we finally found the space to push into it.
So I want to come back and talk about each of these kind of brands, if you will, individually. Mm-hmm. First, can you give us a little bit of backstory on you and kind of how you found yourself in this world?
Yeah. It's kind of a long story, but I started off actually doing really high-end architectural sheet metal, doing mostly shop fabrication and stuff like that. A lot of press brake work, advanced layout, welding, finishing. I worked on Paul Allen's house and Bill Gates' house and the Experience Music Project up in Seattle. I did a bunch of metal work on that. And I ended up getting more into like the project management side of doing construction work and doing estimating and even into engineering. And I really just got burned out on construction in a whole. Like I just, it's not like the firearm community. It's very cutthroat. And for me, it just wasn't a good fit. I wasn't happy there. And so I was always looking for kind of a way out of that world and to do something that I really enjoyed and what I had passion in. And so I grew up in a long range shooting family. My dad, he was a high master Palma shooter when I was growing up, and he builds really cool, walnut wood stocks in our garage. And I just kind of grew up tinkering with my dad, and I just like, you know what, this is something I can see myself doing. And finally, I just got a wild hair up my butt, and I was designing parts in CAD and trying to get them patented. And I was getting some stuff through, but when you go to prototype something, you go to a machine shop and they're like, yeah, it looks really cool. $60,000 and I'll prototype that for you. And you're like, what? Like I was just a kid, on a regular budget. I didn't have $60,000 to
lying around.
Right. And so, I decided to buy a mill and teach myself how to mill. I'd never done it before. I was a fabricator. Mm-hmm. I've always been able to learn anything that I put my mind to, but I wasn't a machinist. And so there was a learning curve for sure. It was a scary one. And bought that mill and bought a Cedar Master Cam, the brand new Haas Cedar Master Cam, put it in a shop next to my house and started going. And within 3 or 4 days, I was cutting 4-axis parts. I figured out how to make the mill move. I figured out, kind of what I was doing. Had a lot of learning to do.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. You find out real quick.
But we were making good, and I dove right into the metrology part of it. We're, measuring what you're doing. You can machine stuff all day, but is it right? And so that's one thing that I forced myself to do. It's like, okay, if I'm going to become a machinist, I've got to learn how to verify my work, right? And not just make crap. Mm-hmm. Because you can do it and you can't see it like in machine parts. Sometimes you can, but measurements are measurements. Like it's hard to see a couple thousandths of an inch and it's either right or wrong. And so learning how to check my own work and make high quality parts, it took me a little bit, but it wasn't as hard as people think it might be, especially if you really dive into it. You put your whole heart and soul into it. You can do about anything. You just got to go for it. Mm-hmm.
What year was it when you bought your first mill?
2011.
Oh, wow.
I think that was when I cut my first parts in 2011. And it was a godsend. Like I actually ran into John Wong at Rainier Arms.
Okay. Yeah.
Like almost right out of the gate. And, he had some little simple parts that he wanted made, and it just kind of exploded from there. Like he wanted these parts made, those parts made. And then I started running into other people and getting different OEM work, and we started doing our own brand, and it just kind of exploded. Ended up moving into a bigger shop, and fast forward to where we're at now, we got 11 machines. We have 40 plus employees. We run 24/7. Literally, my machine shop doesn't even turn off.
Wow.
And we're turning away work. It's exploded, and it's been amazing to watch it. And the employees, the people that we've surrounded ourselves with is just, we got a top-notch crew.
So how do you go about scaling from your garage basically with your one machine and your buddy, camping out, at your house, running shifts with you. How do you scale up to 10,000 square feet, 40 employees, and 11 machines like that? How does
slowly? It's scary, because it's the investment of this equipment. I mean, some of these pieces of machine, equipment are $600,000-$700,000.
Insane.
And so it's a big chunk every time you put another machine on the floor. But when you put another machine on the floor, you got to make it work, right? So you have to be ready to hire people, to build more infrastructure. And it's not just the machines. It's bigger air compressors. It's better sandblasting equipment. It's more tumblers. It's having an assembly area that's set up, that it's having a photo studio. It's putting in network and IT stuff. Like it's like layers upon layers. And so it's a slow growth, but again, you just gotta be ready to wear a lot of hats. I'm the IT guy 1 minute, I'm the welder the next minute, I'm building a spreadsheet the next minute, I'm designing a part the next minute. It's just, you just go where you need, and you just kind of, I guess it's the be like water thing, fill the cup.
So you mentioned that you work with a lot of different kind of higher end brands, or OEM for a lot of different brands. How do you go about getting those clients, and like how do you build those relationships with those folks?
Well,
do they just you just happen to meet the right people at the right time, or
it's that, but it's also, I don't know. I mean, this sounds cliche, but it's like, be a good person.
Yeah.
Like if you do what you say you're going to do and you treat people right, like I believe doors open for you. And over the years, like my first client that I ever had, I still have them. I'm not saying I haven't lost people, but it's more me firing customers. But the doors open. Mike Miller, when he came on, he brought with him an incredible portfolio of people that he'd worked with in the past. I owe a lot of that to him. Some of our best clients that we have, he brought with him, but they're all very high. I can't say exactly who these companies are. There's NDAs in place and everything, but we work with some of the very best brands in this industry. We do some of the most high-end work in this industry. And we don't just do the machine work. We also do a lot of the design development. They come to us with a concept, and we try to take it the rest of the way for them. Sometimes they'll come to us with a drawing, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Like usually we're very involved in the R&D part. Sometimes we'll come up with an idea and we'll bring it to them and say, hey, we came up with this idea. Do you guys want to take this? We feel like it's a good fit for you. And they can take it or leave it. But, like one brand that I can say that we work very closely with is Sons of Liberty. Great company. We do a lot of work for them. We collab on the design. They have a lot of experience with testing and doing that kind of stuff. So we do a lot with them.
Yeah, we end up doing a lot of work with them too over here, and they definitely seem like a good group of guys over there who really care about not only the industry, but just like 2A rights and building a quality product and stuff. So definitely a lot of respect for them, and their company's growing a lot too.
Yeah,
as of late.
They're taking off like absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's well deserved too. They make good stuff.
Yeah. Not only on the expansion side, but they're like going deeper into like new stuff, like, bringing out new products and new materials, and like kind of pushing the envelope as far as, like what they're putting out.
We have
probably got a good OEM.
We have a long list of projects they want to do, and along with some of the other OEMs, like everybody wants to be innovating, right? It's like, if you don't innovate, you die. Especially the companies we work with. And I think that's a lot of the reason why these companies are bucking the trend right now. A lot of people are having a hard time right now. It seems like some of the companies that we've aligned with are somehow, they're not being affected as much. And it's cool to see. And, I feel very blessed. I think God's looked out for us to have friends like this. Mike and Kyle over at Sons are great people. Like you said, very two-way oriented. They do care, but they also care about putting good product out in the market, and they cater to military, law enforcement, and the enthusiast.
Yeah.
And so they're hitting all three segments very well. It's cool to see. I wish I was a marketer like them.
Yeah.
I don't know how to market like those guys.
Yeah, it's nice when you kind of have all the pieces coming together. They got the good designs, the good, IP, if you will, the marketing side, the culture and everything over there, the sense of community and all that, and then just the ability to like take an idea and run with it, and then actually get it out to the market. They've got the whole setup over there, really.
Yeah, they're a great company, great people. And that's the big thing. It's surround yourself. That's why I started this. Surround yourself with people you consider friends, and that you'd be friends with. And that's where the construction thing totally lost me.
Yeah,
it's like a lot of those people I didn't even want to shake their hand. And it's like, why am I working with these people? And this industry is completely different. Every industry's got their rotten eggs, but it seems like for the most part, almost everybody I meet,
you're not able to get away with it as much in this industry because everybody knows everybody, and then like that stuff gets around. And if you start developing that bad reputation, people just don't really have a desire to work with you.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. I definitely think what you were saying, just by being a good person, doing what you say you're going to do and that sort of thing definitely pays off. Even if it doesn't, work out in the short term, it's probably for good reason. There's been other companies I've worked for and it's like things didn't work out, but it was companies that I probably wouldn't want to stay with anyways, So like you said, I don't think for the viewers who aren't in the industry right now, I don't think they realize like how difficult this last year has been for a lot of companies. And to hear stories like with you guys, stories like with Sons, just good dudes doing good work and doing well right now, it's really definitely encouraging to see. And I definitely think, you have that work ethic, you're going to eventually it's going to come back to you.
Yeah. And the thing that scares me the most is I feel like right now it's the gun shops that are getting hit the hardest.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the point of sale, right? So that's scary to me. And I really feel for a lot of these gun shops. I can see that they're struggling and that they're hurting right now. And I'm really hoping that this turns around for us pretty soon. Like we need it in this community and in the 2A community, especially, like we need to bolster things up a little bit. And I think with this new administration, I'm praying that things are going to shift for us a little bit, but
yeah, same.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's kind of scary times because eventually, like, we're not immune. Like eventually it makes its way up to the manufacturers. It's always like a delay.
Yeah. You kind of see the tail end of it and stuff. There is a delay there.
Yeah.
Like there's been a couple gun shops here in Conroe and Magnolia that have closed. Like there was one right there off 1488. I drove by every day taking kids to school. I met the owner. He's been in the range before. He shoots the match and stuff. Super cool dude. I just was driving by the other day and saw that it's for lease now,
Man.
They were always a pretty cool shop. Like they stocked good stuff and all these little shops and all the local gun shops are the ones that feel it first,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we saw in 2016, like the Trump slump and everything. I think this year, this Trump presidency is going to be different.
Yeah.
But
we hit a double whammy with that one because I think a lot of people were betting on Hillary getting in.
And that's exactly what happened.
And everybody stocked their shelves tall.
Everybody was going as deep as they could, buying as much inventory as they could because they thought Hillary had it in the bag. And then when the opposite happened, everybody was so overstocked that
fire sales.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think there was a buildup to that too, like with Sandy Hook, right? Because there was some things that happened where these explosions would happen in the market and nobody could get what they wanted to sell it, right? So everybody was freaked out that if Hillary got in, that they were not going to be able to get what they wanted, kind of like what you alluded to. And so people doubled down or tripled down. It was crazy. And the second he got in, it was like the carpet just got ripped out from the entire industry. I was at SHOT Show when he got inaugurated.
Oh yeah.
We were watching it on the screen and everybody was hooping and hollering, and it was a great thing for the country. But for the firearm industry, it was the biggest kick in the teeth because you saw the fire sales start happening right then. It was,
and also too, for people that may have gotten into the industry here more recently than others, like anytime any politician would open their mouth about a potential ban, like look at the Obama years, like anytime he would open his mouth about that, everyone would rush out and buy, you know, mags and ammo and guns and stuff. And it got to the point where, like, you know, anytime there was any sort of, you know, mass killing event or something, you know, a politician would open their mouth and talk about the bans that they want to push through. Everyone would freak out and go have that high buying. Towards the end, you know, it stopped being like that.
Yeah, we've become acclimated.
Everybody thought that's what Hillary was going to do. You know, like if Hillary gets in, there's going to be a huge rush. There's going to be these bans and everything. So everyone's stocking up, and then that didn't happen. Yeah, you know,
you definitely see the gun stores and the suppliers being a little bit more conservative now. They're not doubling down on every scare.
Yeah, because like after, like post Trump, you know, going into the Biden era, you know, they would talk about bans, and then like, you know, we'd see it on the news. Okay, oh, here it comes, and then everybody had gotten kind of realized over, you know, the past however long, like, you know what, nothing ever happens, so I'm just going to sit this one out,
right?
You know,
or they've have 5 or 6 ARs in their closet that they didn't from the last 3 scares. They're like full up.
Yeah, they've already panic bought. Or there's, I think another factor too is that, you know, the economy's been bad for a lot of different industries, and people really can't afford extra stuff, at least, especially last year.
Well, I think that's what's happening now.
Even going into this year. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at gas price, any consumer price index, you know, gas prices, the grocery bills, like, you know, people are just the amount that people are spending on groceries and gas, like that eats up your disposable income, your discretionary income. People just don't have the money for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of it, you know, one thing I have noticed that's kind of weird, you guys could tell me if you've seen this or not. Like everything else in the world is going up, but firearm prices aren't. We for some reason we can't raise because we're in this weird conundrum right now where the demand isn't there. Right. So like our cost is going up constantly. Like my cost of material, my cost of goods sold is it's probably gone up 15-20% in the last 3 years, but I cannot raise my price, or I put myself out of the marketplace. Yeah, right. And the people I work for are doing the same thing. You know, my OEMs are holding. So it's not a trend right now for the firearm industry to raise, along with the cost of living increase, which is kind of scary.
Inflation's happening all around us, you know,
because eventually it's going to have to happen, right? Like we can't hold out forever, and just let our you know, we have a very small net. I'm sure you know too. Firearm manufacturing and gun stores, we have a very narrow.
You don't get into it for the money.
No, we have a very narrow net profit margin. We're not raking in the dough.
Yeah, and
so when inflation happens at that level, it's just eating into that. And when you're talking numbers like 15-20%, like at some point, like there's nothing left to be made, and something's going to give. Either the cost of living's got to come down, and cost of goods sold is going to come down, or the prices are going to have to go up. I mean, it's just inevitable. It's going to happen. And what's that going to look like? You know, what's that going to do to people? Because it sucks, you know, like nobody wants to raise prices, you know?
Yeah. I got a question now for both of you. Being business owners, looking at economic situations like this, is there anything you guys do now, having learned from stuff in the past, that kind of protects your business in times like difficult times like this? Changes you've made or stuff? I guess we'll go with you first, Rick.
Yeah. Careful how far you leverage yourself, you know, how much debt you put yourself in. You know, during the Trump slump, I almost died. You know, it almost got me. I was leveraged to the hill because I was a new company, right? When you start, you know, within that first 5 years, you don't have time to pay off equipment, you know, and nobody can afford to go out and buy, you know, $200,000-$300,000 mills and lathes out of their pocket. You know, I started like everybody else did. You go to the bank, you get a loan, you bite the bullet, and you take out a loan on a piece of equipment. But the thing is that bills due every month. I mean, some of my equipment now, it's 12 G's a month just for the freaking piece of equipment sitting on the floor. And that's not the people running it. And that's not the tools I put in it. It's not the material, nothing. And so, but you got to really be careful on how far you leverage yourself, because it almost got me, and I'm in a much better position now. I think we own like 75% of the equipment outright now.
Nice.
So that debt ratio is way down from where it's at. And I never want to let it get up like that again, because puking blood in the middle of the night because you're so stressed out is not a good way to live.
Doesn't sound healthy.
No. And so what about you, Ike? Like what's your take on that?
Yeah, kind of touching on what you said, not over leveraging yourself. I think that's a really easy mistake to make. Because there's always some risk with business. And like you said, like there's no way to grow it. I'm not going to say there's no way. I don't like absolute statements, but it's very difficult to grow a company and to scale up like that without taking on some amount of debt. I mean, obviously it can be done, but you're not going to grow as quickly as you could otherwise. And then sometimes like the demand is there and either you have to grow or give up. Like you have to, if you're not moving forward, you're not really, you're going to end up, falling. So it's trying to find that line. And then also, I think Michael Gerlich talked about it on the podcast, I think on our podcast a couple years ago at SHOT Show. He's Raven Concealment, for those that may not know, but he was basically saying like, when times are good and money's flowing in and stuff, that's when the businesses tend to get really loose with their spending and stuff. They don't really watch their budgets as much as they should. And they, not throw money away, but like are not as deliberate with their spending. And if you maintain that all the way through the slow periods and stuff, if you don't adjust that quick enough, it can really bite you, come back to bite you. So maintaining that discipline when times are good will prepare you for the downturn because you're already used to that discipline and that, that I guess deliberate spending as opposed to just like throwing money here and there and just like not watching it as closely. So,
yeah. And, everybody loves growing. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing more exciting than growing your company, because you get to see it moving forward. The hardest thing to do is to watch your company go backwards.
Yeah.
Right. That's painful because we fight for every inch forward. It's like when you're in a tug of war, when you're pulling back and you're winning, it feels great. But when you're getting pulled forward and you're losing ground, it's kind of a horrible sinking feeling. Mm-hmm. And this guy, this was years ago. This was actually back when I was doing HVAC stuff. I did a seminar with this. I listened to this guy speak, and he had a really great visual analogy for this. And hopefully I could do it without a whiteboard here. But imagine you have a triangle, right? And your company growing is going up this side of the triangle, and your company declining is going down this side of the triangle. Now, when you're growing, you always cut into the triangle and then you grow to the line. So that line is your growth curve, right? Mm-hmm. So you struggle, you expand up to the line, you struggle, you expand up to the line, and so forth. So you're on the inside of the triangle. The inside of the triangle is profitability. The outside of the triangle, you're losing money. Our natural inclination is when we decline is to do the exact opposite. We hold on to things as long as we can, mm-hmm. and then we fall to the line. We hold on to things as long as we can, and we fall to the line. Mm-hmm. We cut at the last second to get down to the line, but that's wrong thinking. If we were struggling coming up and we were staying on the inside of the triangle, you should be doing the same thing coming down. Mm-hmm. You should cut soon, let it move to the line, cut soon, move to the line. And that was just like a really good analogy that it always stuck with me.
That's a good visualization.
But it's a hard thing to do, even though you need to do it.
It's very easy to say. It's another thing in practice. Like intellectually, you might know that that's the right thing to do, but actually going out and doing that is very difficult.
Well, we build relationships with employees. Like our most valuable things we have are our guys. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Our team, it's so hard to build an awesome team. It's probably the most important thing we do is team building. If you don't do that right, you're done. And so letting go good people, when you're holding out hope that things are going to pick up, and you're like, and you hold on to them as long as you can. But at some point you might have to let them go. But the last thing you want to do is let them go early. Right. So it's a conundrum. Like it's a really tough spot to be in as a business owner. And it's a hard call to make. And because you let a guy go like that, you might never see him again. You know, they're a good guy. They're going to go find someplace else to work, and they're going to do good there. And so it's hard.
I definitely don't envy you guys for having to make decisions like that. You know, I can't imagine. And we talked a little bit about it earlier, but it's just the amount of work that goes into building the business and growing it in the first place, getting it to take off. How you guys said how, you know, it takes a long time before, you know, several years before people really start to notice you, and they're like, oh, you guys blew up overnight. It's like, no, we've been working at this for a long time already. And then, you know, it's just definitely kudos to you guys for being able to do that and stick with it. It definitely takes grit. For sure.
Or we're just really dumb.
Yeah.
Or that. Yeah. Don't know any better.
I think also too, to be a business owner, you kind of also have to be an optimist to some degree. You know, like, I mean, if you took a look at it, statistically speaking, most businesses fail within the first 3 years. Most don't see their 5th year anniversary. So like to go and be like, you know what, I'm going to beat the odds. Like that takes a certain degree of optimism. Yeah. And then like what you're talking about is like cutting early enough. Like we're always, you have to be a realist to an extent, but like it requires almost a degree of pessimism to be like, okay, I don't think things are going to get better. I need to cut big enough, fast enough. But as like a business owner, I feel like naturally you're more optimistic. So you think things are going to get better. And when they don't, that's when you find yourself outside the triangle, on the downward.
We're all sinners that way, man. Like we all know what our fault is, and you still do it, you know? But to be cognizant of it and to understand that when you do that, you're taking that risk, you know, I think it's important, and to not let it get too out of hand. Right. I feel that life is all about balance, you know, trying to find that balance point where everything kind of maintains. Like I never feel like I can do anything perfect, but I feel like I can hold a lot of spinning plates, you know, somewhat okay. You know, I'm dancing around trying to keep them in the air, but it's a lot to handle. And the other thing I was thinking of too is like in these tough times, I think one thing that separates the people that succeed is they force themselves to keep innovating, and pushing forward and not going stagnant. And I see that in a lot of different companies, like the ones that are out there pushing hard and trying to bring new ideas and new things to the market and pushing the envelope. It seems like they're doing, they seem to buck the trend as well. Like right now we're working with Flux Defense, you know, great company. And we actually did a collab slide with them with the charging handle, but they're like, when I met them, well, actually the first time I saw the Flux Raider, I was like, man, like this thing is cool. You know, like these guys put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah, a lot of thought.
You know, the way you can dump both mags. Yeah. And you can just slam the next one in. The reload time is like crazy. Like the way that buttstock the brace deploys. Sorry. And just like the amount of detail that they put into that thing. And, you know, like those boys,
it's a very complex piece of equipment, or, you know, like it's not a simple design.
No, I appreciated it. You know, like I like building complex things. Like you guys have seen the stuff I make. Like I kind of go into the weeds. And so I saw it and I appreciated it. And I was like, man, I got to meet these guys, you know? And so we ran into each other and we decided to do a collab on a slide. And like now it looks like we're going to be doing some barrel work with them and everything else. So, but they're kind of the point of the spear a little bit, you know, they're pushing into something that was kind of untapped, or they did it better than anybody else had ever done it. And, I just see those kind of companies they're somehow in this decline, they're still thriving and they're always sold out, you know, and it's cool to see, you know, so innovation does still drive the ship. You got to put yourself at the point of that spear somehow. And that's one thing that we try to do very hard. I don't know, like, if I'm doing a really great job at it, but I try as hard as I can to keep pushing and to try to keep innovating.
So speaking of that, that's a really good segue. We're doing some other videos on it. That's why you're down here, is recording some product informational videos and stuff. But one, Icon has some pretty cool stuff coming out. Can you talk about the 300 blackout barrel?
Yeah.
You showed me a bunch of stuff I shot. We're going over some stuff now, but I think this would be a good kind of natural.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy thing. We actually got a non-provisional patent on rifling, which I don't think happens a lot anymore, right? To get a patent on rifling. But we were actually working with a guy named, his name is Rob Randazzo. He's a really cool dude that we've been friends with. He actually worked with Mike at Zev for a while when Mike was running manufacturing and engineering over there. But he worked at Aberdeen, and he worked for some unknown military forces as their armorer, doing work for them, setting up their guns and everything. Very smart guy. And he's the one that actually kind of brought this to us. And we teamed up with him, and we had to do a lot of work on the development to get this thing to actually work and over the finish line. But it's kind of a crazy technology. It's a 12 groove rifling. Instead of 6 grooves, it has 12. And the reason for it is when you have 12 grooves, your rifling depth can be half as deep, right? So instead of 4,000 deep grooves, they're 2,000 deep. And what that gains you in 300 blackout, see, when 300 blackout doesn't have enough, if you're shooting subsonic, it doesn't have enough pressure behind the bullet to seal the bullet into the corners of the rifling grooves when they're 4,000 deep, right? You need 43,000 PSI behind the bullet to deform the bullet into those corners to seal it. And if you don't seal, what happens is you get gas blow by in those corners and it destabilizes your bullet. That's why 300 blackouts fall apart at 150 yards. They get destabilized and they get out and they wobble, and then all of a sudden they start tumbling. Yeah. Right? It's always around 150 yards. When we went to the 12 groove and we're getting it to seal, and it's also less turbulent. You got those 2,000 grooves on the outside of the bullet. Oh. So it's like smaller blades of a prop in the air, right? So they're not disturbing the air as much as it's spinning, because you're subsonic. You don't have that high pressure cone going around the bullet like you do with supersonic. So the air is contacting the surface of the bullet the whole time. So, but what it does is it seals. So what we're able to do with that is we're getting sub MOA at 300 yards of subsonic. It's working great. And so we're like super excited. Like we actually got it to work and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So we're really excited about this one.
When do you anticipate that launching? You're absolutely going to, it's out?
It's out.
Oh, wow.
We got them.
Oh, snap. I thought
we just had our first production run.
To me. Oh, that's going to be my next recce rifle is a 9-inch 300 blackout.
I think we just took shipment of the first production batch.
Oh, snap.
So yeah, they're hitting the market right now.
Wow.
So I think we just need to, finalize the price. They're here, but I think probably in the next week, they'll be on the website for sale and dealers. We're going to stock our dealers and everybody first, obviously. But
so speaking about rifling and grooves and all that, let's talk about your pistol barrels. You're probably going to go into in depth on this on one of the product videos, but can you give us like what makes your pistol barrels different than say any other one on the market?
Well, you guys, I've given you the explanation of this, but it's the way we rifle it. So there's 3 different types of rifling, and I don't want to get like crazy into the weeds on this because I can go on and on. I geek out bad, but it took me 2 years to develop the technology that we put into those barrels, and it was trial and error, and it was a very expensive machine sitting there for 2 years. Like as I developed this, it was a very, very painful process. And anybody that wants to try it, go ahead. I dare you. It's painful. And so, but I'm stubborn. and I knew I could do it. But basically it's, the rifling on the inside of the barrel is single point cut. And what that means, almost every other barrel on the market right now, as far as I know, I'm the only one single point cutting pistol barrels in the world. But everybody else, they're using button or broach rifling. And so at the end of the day, button and broach don't yield the same groove to groove accuracy, because every groove in the barrel is being cut with a different cutter edge. Where single point cut, you have one cutter edge cutting each groove one at a time, and you're taking 2 10,000ths of an inch per stroke. So at the end of the day, we're putting the tool in the barrel 144 times, but every groove is cut with the same cutter at the exact same depth, at the exact same width. Even the scratches, like if you look at it through a microscope, even the scratches are forensically, you can't tell the difference.
So you've got like one tool that's one cutting tool that cuts 2 1,000ths of an inch off of one groove, and it indexes to the next position, cuts 2 1,000ths off, and does that for all 6 grooves. And then it repeats the process again.
And you advance the cutter, and it goes through all the grooves again, taking 2 10,000ths of an inch. That's about all it can take. If you tried to load the tool more than that.
2 10,000ths, not
2 10,000ths.
Not 2 1,000ths, 2 10,000ths. Wow.
So 8 passes, or five passes to make a thou.
Wow.
And so we're going 4 thou deep. So it's a lot of strokes. And
what's cycle time on that? Like
I can't say that.
That's probably
No, I'm trying to. The way I do it is very unique. We actually make our own tools in house, but it's very highly guarded how I did it. But it's all being done. One of the other coolest things is it's all done in one machine from start to finish.
Oh wow!
Like so, all the features of accuracy are done in one machine, start to finish. So the barrel OD, the bore, the rifling, the threads, the crown, the chamber, which are all the components of accuracy, are done in one machine without ever being touched, cut out of pre-hardened material. So I'm not even doing a post-heat treat that will deform the material.
Yeah. Wow.
Harder on the tools.
Yeah.
But what you get out the other end is what you get. And so at the end of the day, what this does, it gives you a very accurate barrel. You got 4 inches on a pistol barrel to get that bullet pointed the right way. People say this all the time, but I don't think people really understand it. Barrel length doesn't have anything to do with accuracy. Barrel length has everything to do with velocity. If you can get that bullet pointed straight, you got 4 inches to do it. You can do it. Mm-hmm. These are incredibly accurate barrels. Usually I can take anybody else's barrel on the planet, cut their group size in half.
Oh, wow.
And I've made that claim since I started making them. If people don't like them or they say bullshit, send it back to me. I'll take it back. I've never had one returned. They're accurate. They do what they do what I say they do, but it was a hard lesson to develop that technology.
You found a lot of ways not to do it, huh?
Yes. Yeah. The light bulb, Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of trial and error, and it's very complex. And it wasn't until I started actually making my own tools in house that I got it to stable out. Because I was hiring grind companies and stuff. I'm literally grinding carbide on my own. I couldn't get anybody else to do it right, so I bought grinders and brought it in.
Damn.
But it's just very tedious. Like getting the setup right is incredible. But once I did it, it's very, very repeatable now, and it's very steady. I did it, and it was hard to do, but the cool thing now is it's all automated. It's all robotic. It moves between it has 2 machines that goes through, but it's robot loaded. It's bar fed in. Very stable process now. So I won somehow. Yeah. But yeah, that's probably the coolest thing I've ever done myself. The hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, it sounds like it. A couple of years, and I'm not even going to ask you how many thousands of dollars. And
yeah. I mean, just the machine was $500.
Jeez.
and that thing sat for 2 years.
I was going to say, just taking 2 years to actually get it to where it's producing income is
it was a hard pill to swallow,
significant.
but I knew it was possible.
Yeah.
I knew it could be done, and I knew if I could do it, I would have something that nobody else has, and I have it. You know, some things are worth fighting for, and some things are worth pushing, and we're known now for these barrels, and nobody, like, we're really, like, Velocity Defense is a very small company in the big scheme of things. Mm-hmm. You talk to most people, they don't even know who we are. If they do know who we are, they know it's our barrel because it's starting to make waves. Mm-hmm. And so it's getting out there. It's just slow because we're small and I suck at marketing.
You're too busy running the machines.
Yeah.
And the other 1,000 hats that you wear.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, but we're trying to step into the marketing and letting people know what we're doing more this year. It's my big push. You know, like I realized I need to stop taking so much of my energy, all my energy, and putting it into the product for just a little bit. And I need to build my marketing and branding department and get that up and moving and breathing on its own. You know, because once you get it to a certain point and you get the right people in place, it will start taking care of itself. But I wasn't giving it enough attention to even get it there.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like I'm refocusing a little bit, but I'm excited.
Yeah. It sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I you know, again, I really appreciate you guys for having me over this week. Very generous of you to come up, invite me in and, do these product videos and stuff. 'Cause this is what I need help with right now. And you guys are great friends, great people. Like I said, this industry is about the relationships and the people that and good people. And it seems like all the good people stick together.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really cool to see. Awesome industry that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm very glad we can help.
Yeah.
Collaboration. I love it.
This is cool too. I love the podcast setup you guys got.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Cozy little room. We've got some beautiful artwork on the wall. I guess you got most of the artwork over there, but
yeah, this is a really cool setup. How many podcasts do you guys do?
A lot.
I think we're at we're at 109 right now. 100.
We've got more than that recorded.
Yeah,
I think published is like 107.
Yeah.
Wow.
Something like that. You're close. It's like 109, 107.
How long have you been doing it?
A while.
Okay.
So ever since I've been here, I've only been here for like a year and a half. So
yeah,
I think this is our third season now that we're going into. We take a break in the summer.
Uh-huh.
When we first started it, we had been doing one every week, and we had been maintaining that up until around December. And then now we're going to one every 2 weeks with a break in the summer. So we're in season 3 right now. And then we're doing one every 2 weeks just to kind of maintain so we can do other things than just a podcast. So, because doing one every week is pretty intensive, but I think we have like 5 or 6, maybe even more recorded.
yeah, we do. I've got a little bit of work ahead of me.
Yeah.
Here, a little bit of catching up to do. I was out for a couple months, so. But a question I was going to ask earlier, and we got distracted with politics. I like to ask this question, and I have a feeling you've probably got an interesting answer, and that is, what do you want to see different from the firearms industry? What kind of changes would you like to see?
It's
kind of tough question.
It is and it isn't. So this is just my feel on it. So back when I was a kid growing up, the NRA was like, they were our biggest advocate and ally. And there's some people that still feel that they are, and I'm not poo-pooing them, but it doesn't feel like that's the consensus anymore in a lot of crowds that I talk to, right? Like, we don't have that elephant in the room. Like, they used to be like just a force, right? Like they would go in when the legislation was happening at the local level, they would come in force, and they would put up a good fight, right? They didn't always win, but they would always come in and fight hard. Up in Washington, they've been passing all sorts of crazy laws, to us. It's insane what they're doing to us. It's completely un-American, unconstitutional, but they're just ramrodding them through. They're not taking a vote. Bob Ferguson, the old attorney general for Jay Inslee, he is now our governor, and he was the one writing all these laws for Inslee. Now he's in there, and he's just ramrodding these things down our throat, and they're horrible. I mean, they've outlawed AR-15 receiver sales, threaded barrels, high-capacity magazines. Like, we're worse in California now, like overnight.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I would go and testify at the hearings, you know, for these laws. And, you know, I would show up and I'd have, you know, a 2-minute speech written, and sometimes you can't even get in to speak it. And if you do, they don't listen to you. They don't want to hear it. It's like you're talking at a wall. You literally feel like it was a waste of my time to even come down and do this, but I needed to do it. You know, like I just needed it to be said or submitted. Like if you don't get a chance to talk, you submit your speech to them, but it means nothing to them.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have, you know, like I said, like what the NRA was, like that elephant that would come in and topple some people over or make it hard on them, you know? And I know that there's groups out there doing it. And they're trying to get bigger, but it just seemed like I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but when we grew up, it was like NRA was boom. Like they were really in their face all the time. And now it feels like we have 3 or 4 littler guys, but they don't seem to have the punch that, you know, and maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just my point of view. You know, it's just kind of the way I feel. And maybe it's because of the state I live in. And I feel like we're getting railroaded, and it doesn't seem like too much is being done to slow them down. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. There definitely are a couple of those groups out there that I like. I think they're definitely better than the NRA these days. But like you said, they're a lot smaller. And it's going to probably take a while. Like we've talked to the guys from Second Amendment Foundation. Did GOA come in? I don't know that GOA did.
No, I think Tara's actually at a GOA event tonight. She's giving a speech there. Saw her on the way out. Our marketing events coordinator there at the range.
Yeah, I do like them. They definitely are smaller, but they're pretty aggressive with their lawsuits, and they've been pretty successful in getting some of these things overturned, which is good, especially since the Bruin decision. That definitely has helped a lot of these cases out, kind of changing a little bit of the standards. I don't know too much of the legal language there, but changing some of the standards on how they look at whether or not some of these laws are unconstitutional and things like that.
Right. Well, and it takes a lot of money to fight, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, flying these lawyers around state to state, and, you know, I mean, I get it, you know, and I can see why, you know, like NRA had such a monopoly on that whole thing for a long time. And I feel like, you know, there's maybe some bad actors that kind of gave them a bad name, you know, and, you know, part of me wants to see them recover, but part of me also wants to see one of these other organizations step up into their place and really do the job better.
I kind of have mixed feelings on that. Like there's a lot of good, smaller organizations that are doing some good stuff, like Second Amendment Foundation is doing some really excellent work. Good group of people over there. Adam is heading up a lot of stuff. Known him for a while. He's kind of leading the charge over there and really breathing some life into that organization. I think the NRA, I think it can still be saved. Like you had said, it's nowhere near the force that it used to be, you know, back in my lifetime and yours, kind of growing up. I think they have a lot of inroads and a lot of like infrastructure that a lot of these other smaller places don't. So I think if we can somehow, I say we, like as the community, you know, the Second Amendment community can kind of take back the organization in a way. I think there's a lot of good infrastructure there and a lot of resources that they have. It just needs to be applied in the right direction instead of, you know, $50,000 suits for Wayne LaPierre and like all the other, you know, excessive spending that, and just mismanagement of the organization and, you know, the failure to live up to like what their mission should be, or used to be. You know, I think if we can somehow take back the organization, steer it in the direction that needs to be where they're actually, you know, advocating for our rights and what they used to do. Basically, I think I would like to see the NRA turned around. I think that's probably be the most efficient way to do it. But I do like seeing these other organizations come up, kind of playing both things at the same time, hoping for the best with the NRA, but preparing for the worst by supporting these other organizations to eventually take over. So
no, I feel you on that 100%. And I really hope that some of these smaller organizations, like, I wish them the best. You know, they have a hard fight. You know, and we all have a hard fight, and somehow we're going to have to figure out a way to bolster them up. Yeah. And that's hard. It's hard to do, especially right now. Like, we just got done talking about how much disposable income people have. You know, everybody's trying to figure out any way to clip, you know, a little bit out of their budget so they can go out to eat once a week, or, you know, like, it's hard for people right now to start passing money out.
Yeah, when just like the cost of living, like actual living, like eating, and, you know, and getting to and from work and rent, like the cost that it takes to actually just, you know, survive is going up exponentially. Yeah, and then trying to have money available for anything else is hard for the vast majority of
It's a big ask right now. It's a big ask, and so it's a uphill battle for us right now. Absolutely, it's a double whammy, and you know, I think the advocates playing on it. You know, they're moving fast right now because I think they feel like they can, and they're not getting as much opposition as they might have before. You know, when these foundations are stronger and the people had more money to support them.
Like, if you look at just like on a state by state basis, how many restrictive gun laws have been enacted in the past, say, 5 years. Like, you got Washington, Oregon's going through a lot. Colorado went through a bunch. They've gone through some more. Illinois, like, you've got all these. Like, California used to be, you know, the poster child for restrictive gun, restrictions. Basically, said restrictive and restrictions in the same sentence. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It used to be the poster child, but like you said, Washington's now worse than California. Like, they banned so much stuff. Yeah. Like, California was one thing, but now, like you said, threaded barrels, pistol, rifle, doesn't matter. You know, receiver sets. Like, there's so much stuff that has been banned in all these other states just within a period of a couple of years, really, a couple legislative sessions, and
it's also scary because the way they worded a lot of these laws up in Washington, the ones that I'm talking about, they are very kind of ambiguous.
Very vague.
Right?
Intentionally vague.
And so I actually think that they're kind of setting some of these small gunshots up. Because when I read these laws, I interpret it like this could be taken this way pretty easily. And there's a lot of gun shops now that are, you know, and God bless their soul, and I hope that they're okay, and I hope that everything works out. But, you know, they're basically saying that these are replacement parts. So they can sell replacement barrels, replacement muzzle brakes, replacement this, that. And I'm hoping that they're not being set up by the government to, like, okay, we come in, we audit you, and you just now sold 500 AR-15 barrels this year, and, you know, this many upper receivers and this many, you know, butt stocks, or, you know, whatever. And I hope that they're not going to come down on them and, like, give them a fine that's unrecoverable. Yeah. Like, I feel like they're giving them enough rope to hang themselves. Exactly. And I hope I'm wrong. Like, I really do. But, like, I got this weird gut feeling, and I hope I'm wrong, that's what they're doing. And
I think you're spot on. Like, I think that's a play right out of the playbook. Like, I think that's definitely within the realm of possibilities of what the powers that be would want.
Yeah, because they're letting a lot of these small shops getting away with it right now. But when it first happened, it was like, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And all of a sudden people were like, oh, we think we can. Well, that gun shop's doing it. So
nothing's happened yet.
Yeah, nothing's happened yet. So I think we can get away with it too. And I'm praying to God right now that that's not what's happening, and that maybe some lawyers are actually interpreting this thing correctly, and they do find the legal ground for them to do that. And maybe it's just my ignorance, not knowing enough yet. but I feel like there's a trap being sprung here.
So Nassim Taleb has a pretty good analogy that he uses in one of his books, and it's basically like you have this turkey that every day he goes through. It gets closer every day, gets closer and closer to Thanksgiving. He's like, it's May. I woke up, got some food, cool. Nothing bad has happened. June comes along. Every day he wakes up and nothing bad happens, and every day he gets closer and closer to Thanksgiving Day, which he's going to get his neck cut off and eaten. So he gets this false sense of security that, for the past 364 days, I've woken up every single day. Nothing bad has happened. Like my situation is getting better and better until Thanksgiving Day. And then the axe comes. So I think that could be what's happening here.
I hope not.
I hope so too.
I really, really, really hope not.
I don't think you're wrong though. I think that's a very likely scenario.
Yeah. And, but I also think that I probably need to do more in my community up there. We're all busy, right? And that's an easy excuse, right? But when you do own a company, you are busy. Yeah, we push as hard as we can every day to take care of our employees and to move the thing forward. But I think that somehow I need to carve out a little bit more time to get more involved. And to figure out how to be effective.
Yeah.
I don't think just standing in front of the Capitol screaming and yelling is the best way to get our point across. I'm not the guys that do it, and I've been there. I've done it with them, but sometimes I just don't feel like they're getting the message. And so it's like, how do we be more effective in getting the message across, in a legal way, in a polite way. I don't think that, the guys that talk about going to violence and stuff, I'm totally against that 100%. I don't think that's the right way to do it. It's figuring out the right way to approach this to where it's respectful and to get their respect and I think it's an education thing, to get more people to understand what these firearms are, what they're for, and how they're not being used like the media pushes it out. If you talk to somebody that watches CNN every day about an AR-15 and you ask them, how many of them kill people in their existence, some of them will say 1 in 10, and it's like, you kidding me? It's not even in that realm.
No, it's not even on the same planet.
More people get stabbed to death than shot by ARs, but they don't want to, but there's just this huge misconception that's out there that's publicly spread. And how do we fight that? How do we really figure out how to combat that in a smart way to project the truth to people? And I think that's a big thing that we all got to figure out in this industry. How do we convey the message, the correct message, the truth?
That was going to be exactly what I was going to ask next is what can people do to actually, participate in that and actually make that change happen, become more involved. Personally, I think kind of what you were saying earlier about education, just talking to other people, opening up those channels, educating them on, the truth about firearms and their role in our society, Second Amendment, raising strong families, just being involved in the community. I think that's a good place to start for a lot of people out there. Just doing that, I think will make a difference. I know for me, just talking to people in my family that didn't understand a lot of that stuff and explaining it to them in a respectful way and just kind of having that conversation, I think that changed a few people's minds, at least in my family. So
I think the key word with that is respectful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes being talked down to, including us.
Yeah. Right? There's yelling at somebody and you're not going to win somebody over with facts. You can try and lay out all the facts and be as logical as you can with it. But I think if somebody believes it that deeply, you have to reach them another way than through facts and logic.
Right.
Respectful discussion is definitely a very big key to it. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
But
and if people respect you as a person, do you have more influence on their thoughts, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're a good person and you hold yourself accountable and to a high standard, and people around you, they will regard you. And so your opinion or your thoughts or your conversations carry more weight with them, instead of being an ass and trying to jam stuff down their throat and tell them they're stupid. You know, there's a different approach. You know, it's the lead by example thing. And
not too many people are going to get their minds changed by being insulted.
no,
Exactly. Being respectful and civil is got to be the foundation of it. And then you're also not trying to reach the extremists, like we're trying to reach the people that are in the middle that maybe, don't really have a strong opinion either way about guns, but because of the lack of knowledge, they're going to defer to being on the anti-gun side of the spectrum. I guess they're going to be really close to the middle. They might be on the fence, but they're going to lean this way just because of lack of knowledge.
right.
So if you being the good steward and, good representation of the community can kind of help sway them the other way through education and through civil discussion, I think that's how we can get more people to our side.
Yeah. And, like one thing that I always tell people that kind of blows people away, and it kind of blows me away too. You know about a trace, right? An FBI trace.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So anytime a firearm gets used in a deadly crime, the FBI does a firearm trace on it. And so what they do is they look at the manufacturer's name and the serial number on that and the model number, and they go back to the manufacturer of record. And they start there, and they ask us, who did you sell this firearm to? And they follow that chain of custody as far down as they can follow it until it either got stolen or it was used in the crime by the legal owner or whatever, right? And so, and that happens every time one's used in a violent crime. I make lower receivers every single day, all day long. No joke. 24/7 right now. 24/7. I'm cutting a lower right now. And do you know how many traces I've had since I've been in business?
I'm guessing probably none.
0. Is that unbelievable? Like I'm not saying that something I've made hasn't been used in a horrible way. I think that would be a false statement. But it's not like this rampant thing. Like, I've made thousands and thousands and thousands of these things, and I've gotten 0 traces. And I'm not, and knocking on wood here, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, because it will. Some idiot's going to get their hands on one of these things and do something stupid.
Usually getting stolen and then, getting sold to.
Yeah. People do dumb things. It's a powerful tool, but the narrative out there is these things are just used all the time, and they're horrible, and a high percentage of them are used in crime. And it's just not the case. It's not even close to the case.
Yeah.
99.999% of gun owners are very responsible people, and these things never see anything but a closet, a gun range, a gun safe, back in the closet, back in the safe, a pickup truck. They're just a tool, and they're a good way for families to bond. And like best memories I have are with my dad out shooting guns and building guns in the garage.
Yeah,
it's how we bonded. It made me who I am today, and it was around firearms, just like some people it's around fishing, or some people it's around going out in their boat. But whatever that is, it's building that family unit, which is the most important thing we have in this country or in this world, is your family unit. And some people bond around different things. Well, there's a whole community of people in this country that we bond around firearms. And I know it's weird for people in other countries that aren't into firearms to think of it that way, but it is. It's a culture here, and it's an important culture. It's been here since this country's been here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the country is founded on civilians having the same guns the military has. That was the whole revolution. And without the civilian gun ownership, there would have been no revolution.
Yeah.
So it's a huge part of our culture for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy times, man.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But
Well, thanks for coming on, taking the time to sit down with us and come down here for a little bit and
oh man,
shoot some videos and
oh,
have
this
some
is
fun.
cool, man. Like your place is it. I knew that you had a cool facility. I didn't know it was this cool.
Thank you.
Like it's impressive. Like, especially when I went over to your ranges and I realized how many bays, 100-yard bays do you
12.
have? 1,200-yard indoor bays. That's impressive.
It's the biggest in Texas, the biggest indoor range in Texas.
Biggest in Texas, right?
That's right.
That's
Yeah, brother.
statement. Yeah. It is an impressive facility you have here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is very, very cool. And it seems like everybody you have here working with you are top notch.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
like, I feel very at home here. Everybody's very welcoming. And, you know, I couldn't be happier to be here, and thank you enough to, you know, just come hang out with you guys for a few days and shoot some videos. And I think this is really cool. I'm looking forward to where we go from here.
Yeah.
But
Well, thank y'all for watching, listening, consuming this however you chose to. Please go check out Rick and the crew over there at Icon Defense, Velocity Defense, and then Killer Innovations as well. All the stuff that they have going on. We're going to have some more videos coming out on the YouTube channel. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, go over there and check it out. We're going to have a lot of different product videos from Rick, and those will kind of be coming out here at some point. I don't know when this is going to air. I don't know when the other ones are going to air, but it'll be there sometime. But anyways, we appreciate y'all watching. Yeah, y'all have a good one, and we will see you next time.